Computer Chronicles is brought to you by the Oracle Small Business Suite, one completely integrated application that helps make it easier to run your business, including accounting, sales and service, your web presence, and more. Additional funding is provided by PC to PC, the online migration service from PC First, moving files, applications, and preferences from your old computer to your new one. Hi, and welcome to this special edition of the Computer Chronicles. We are on the island of Kauai for the second part of our special series on high-tech Hawaii. If you work in the high-tech industry and you're getting just a little bit tired of the rat race, the traffic, the commute, and the pollution, you might want to know that there are lots of high-tech companies here in Hawaii who are looking for people who want to work in paradise. When a company called Trex decided to set up shop here on the island of Kauai, it needed highly skilled people. Physicists, chemists, double E's, and computer scientists. In an already tight employment market, Trex was able to add one more sweetener to its job offers, a chance to get your family out of the city and onto the islands.
Typically, in today's high-tech environment, one of the more difficult employees to obtain are people who have electrical engineering degrees. They're tremendously sought after, and especially those in the 35 to 40-year-old range where they have a lot of experience that's been built up. Companies simply buy them. And in this case, we had an employee's wife send us his resume because they were tired of Boston and they wanted to find a more benign place to be. And they have come to Hawaii. They live up on a mountainside, work in a technical environment. The husband is doing excellent work. The wife is very happy.
Trex has been very successful in its recruiting. It now has 7 PhDs working here. Keiki Dancel is one of them. She said yes to a job offer from Trex. She was born in Hawaii but got her doctorate at the University of California in San Diego after doing her undergraduate work at Santa Clara University in the Silicon Valley. Just a few years ago, Keiki would not have had the option of coming back to Hawaii to work. She would have become part of Hawaii's brain drain, staying on the mainland where the high-tech jobs are. But times have changed, thanks in large part to the internet.
I think if it wasn't for the internet, I would have thought long and hard and probably would not have accepted the position here just because of the fact of isolation. I need the brain food, I need the interaction with my peers, I need to be intellectually stimulated. And you don't really find too much of that here on your day-to-day life, just walking through the supermarkets. Unlike walking through the supermarkets, say in Silicon Valley or down in La Jolla, you bump into somebody you know that's in your field.
But even the internet can't solve every problem. Keiki Dancel says she occasionally does miss the stimulation of the mainland.
Sometimes yes, but in most times no, just because of the internet and all that technology. I do a fair amount of correspondence via email. I'm constantly contacting people on the mainland, asking for advice. We go back and forth with different ideas. Also, I'm very privileged to be sent over to different conferences over in the mainland, and I travel a fair amount, especially since we are headquartered in San Diego. Going back and forth to the headquarters there, which is very near to UCSD, where I did my graduate work. A lot of my peers are still in the area doing biotechnology there. So I get it, not in person, but via email.
This young man, Nathan Woods, who is showing me around the area that will become the manufacturing facility at Trex, could have gotten a job anywhere. He is a PhD physicist and a National Merit Scholar. But he came to Hawaii to help oversee an exciting new opportunity here at Trex, designing and manufacturing a new generation of porous silicon chips for use as biosensors. Clifford Tanaka was a high-tech recruiter's dream. Undergraduate degree from Carnegie Mellon University, PhD from MIT. He is from Hawaii, but he never thought he would be able to come back home and still work in his field.
When you're in engineering, you kind of have to put it to the side because you think there's no opportunities here. But fortunately, we have a company like Trex out here trying to build a good high-tech business out here. And so as soon as I heard about it, I jumped at the chance.
Trex has raised the ante for high-tech companies in Hawaii. They're not just doing software development or internet business, they are working on advanced materials design and the manufacture of very complex silicon chips. And that was a challenge for the local authorities.
We had to have appropriate permits put in place, and these were quite foreign to the officials we started dealing with, and so we worked with them, explained what we were doing, explained why everything was being done properly. They worked with us. They were very open-minded. They tried to work together, and they were not simply frightened by something new. And that perhaps impressed me the most, that there was a way to protect yourself as a bureaucrat, to say no to something, because then you never make a mistake. These people were genuine human beings trying to help their community, trying to help bring prosperity to their island, and they worked with us, and it's been very successful, very heartwarming.
While there is lots of growth and activity in high-tech on the outer islands of Maui, Kauai, and the Big Island, most of the budding high-tech companies are settling here on Oahu in the city of Honolulu. Honolulu may be in Hawaii, but it is a bustling metropolis with a population of 500,000, and it has the University of Hawaii. The proximity to a large research university has created some of the same synergy one finds in the Boston area or the San Francisco Bay Area. University research projects growing into high-tech businesses. Perhaps the most successful high-tech company here in Honolulu is AdTech, a division of Spirent Communications. AdTech makes network test equipment. Its hardware and software are used worldwide by such customers as Cisco, Nortel, Sprint, and MCI. AdTech competes with the likes of Agilent Technologies, the recent HP spin-off. And Hawaii-based AdTech says it is beating the competition.
In many areas, we've defined ourselves as being the world leader in performance analysis solutions. So the industry itself has recognized AdTech and Spirent Communications as the world leader in providing the state-of-the-art network test equipment. One of the areas that we have a significant lead on is the next generation of high-speed networks. We're the first to deliver a working 10 gigabit per second test solution to the industry.
As a global company with lots of customers in Asia, there are advantages to being located in the middle of the Pacific Ocean.
In our field, we're a global company. We sell over 30% of our product to markets overseas. And our ability to service the Asian market is quite acute because we can culturally mix with the customer base that exists there and really understand what their concerns are, what their issues are, which are frequently different than US-based communication companies.
AdTech is a company that needs lots of highly skilled engineers, and they do not see their location in a remote place like Hawaii as a negative when it comes to finding the people they need.
One would actually assume that Hawaii is a difficult place to locate a high technology company, but perhaps one of our best kept secrets is that it really offers an enormous advantage to us in terms of being able to recruit top talent. There's an enormous pool of people who are at the top of their fields on the mainland that would love the opportunity to work for a high-tech company. They would be on the cutting edge of technology, compensation is mainland scale, and they're doing it right here in Paradise. That's a very appealing package for a lot of people, and we have an ability to attract and retain a world-class team that I think most mainland companies would have a hard time matching.
AdTech's CEO doesn't buy the argument that for an engineer to come to Hawaii for a job could be damaging to his or her career.
Well, I think the view that high technology in Hawaii is a career-ending move is probably outdated today. If you look at companies like ours, and there are several other very significant high technology companies here, we're really defining ourselves as a true leader in technology. And the opportunities that we've created here in Hawaii are world-class opportunities, and people are now recognizing that you can be a significant contributor to state-of-the-art technology and do it right here in Hawaii. So I think that feeling has changed quite a bit over the last few years.
Tarek Hoke cites two main reasons for the changing climate for high-tech in Hawaii. One of them is the internet.
The internet has definitely changed the way of doing business from here in Hawaii. Video conferencing and telecommunications are much easier now than they have been traditionally. And our ability to do business is really unhampered by the fact that we're located here, and the benefits of being here in Hawaii actually far outweigh the disadvantages of the distance that we have to bridge.
The other big positive change for Hawaii and its more casual lifestyle is the increased crowding and urban problems in many mainland cities.
A lot of the centers of technology have deteriorated in terms of quality of life, so prices and traffic and the number of other combinations have made it less attractive to stay in those areas, and the contrast between Hawaii and those areas has really moved in the favor of Hawaii quite significantly.
While Hawaii may be at a disadvantage for some high-tech companies because of its remote location, one part of Hawaii, this area called Kapolei on the western end of Oahu, is perfect for one industry, telecommunications. This is the hub of all electronic traffic moving between Asia and the U.S. mainland.
Kapolei is very unique from the telecom perspective because it's the place here on Oahu where the trans-Pacific cables, the terrestrial networks, and the satellite network serving Asia and the U.S. mainland come together. So that creates a very unique situation here where these networks can interconnect with one another. Businesses that need the high bandwidth to serve the Asian markets or to be an intermediary between the Asian markets and the U.S. markets can locate here and take advantage of those telecom capabilities.
Developers are moving quickly to take advantage of this unique location by building a new telecom business park here, targeted at high-tech tenants.
Well, the ideal tenant would be an internet data center, for example, a network access point, because historically the internet has been a US-centric phenomenon. It's globalizing and it's reaching out and growing in places like Asia. So it's a natural extension of that business to start moving internet access points out away from the US toward Asia.
Internet service providers that locate here in Kapolei's communications hub are in a unique position to add a lot of value to the network services they deliver to their customers in Asia. Howard Schweibert explains.
An internet query from Tokyo might end up going all the way back to the US mainland through Hawaii, then back from the mainland again through Hawaii to some place like Hong Kong. Hawaii can shortcut that process, make it more efficient and faster by locating a major network access point here in Hawaii.
The owner of this land, the Campbell Estates, is doing more than just building a business park. It is creating a whole new city, pre-wired for the digital age. The developers see this kind of brand new infrastructure as a big plus in attracting high-tech companies to this part of Oahu.
Infrastructure is really a critical part of this, and typically when you have a downtown setting that's evolved over the decades, the cables that need to be laid through the conduit systems, it's very difficult to do that because the infrastructure is clogged. It's for the most part used up. And so to serve a downtown area, you have to dig up streets, disrupt traffic, all of those sorts of things, and that's difficult to do. Here we have a green field situation. We started from day one when we put the streets in. We put multiple conduit systems in so that when the carriers were ready to come in and lay their networks, all they had to do was pull it through the pipes.
If you work in high tech, you want to be in the Silicon Valley. If you make movies, you've got to be in Hollywood. If you work in the stock market, you're going to be in New York. But if you are an astronomer and your work is studying the galaxies, there is only one place in the world you want to be, and that is right here on the big island of Hawaii. This is the Silicon Valley of astronomy.
It's generally regarded as the best place on the planet to do astronomy from. There are several atmospheric conditions that make the site just very, very good for observing. It's high, 14K. It's very dry. The humidity, I was up there for 2 weeks, and for 4 nights in a row, the humidity was 1 or 2%. So it's actually an alpine desert.
6 of the world's 10 largest telescopes are here on Mauna Kea on the big island of Hawaii, a 14,000-foot peak above the weather and in clean, dry air, perfect conditions for looking into space. Mauna Kea is in fact the biggest mountain in the world if you measure from the base of the ocean floor. Not only is Mauna Kea the center of high-tech astronomy, it is the scene of fierce competition among scientists searching for the next great cosmological discovery. One of their tools in this scientific quest is new computer technology and a new astronomy tool called the Gemini Project. Gemini is a unique kind of telescope. It focuses not on visible light, but on infrared light, a part of the spectrum which, ironically, enables astronomers to see more than they ever have before.
You look at the same objects that you look at in the visible, but you get totally different information when you look at in the infrared. So we look at galaxies, comets, planets, disks around other stars, basically the whole gambit that people have looked at in the optical, but the infrared is new, and so when you look at it there for the first time, you get a whole different picture.
The Gemini Project goes far beyond old-fashioned astronomy. Galileo wouldn't recognize it, because today's astronomy is more about computers and software than about lenses and mirrors.
You cannot do modern research astronomy without computers. Unfortunately, we may dispel the myth of the astronomer sitting behind the telescope looking through an eyepiece, but that really has not happened for quite a while. We sit in a control room looking at a bank of monitors, and that is really the only way. The cameras that we use are fully electronic these days, and we talk more in number of pixels and things like that versus film and plates. That just doesn't happen anymore.
The internet is also changing the field of astronomy. Most scientists who use the Gemini telescope won't be there physically. They'll be accessing the telescope's data via the internet.
At the moment, there is a direct link between the telescope here at the summit and where we're sitting right now, which is about 35 miles away. And very soon, the telescopes will be linked across the net such that you do not necessarily have to go to the telescope any longer. You can stay at your home institution and not necessarily make the observations, but you can eavesdrop on the observations. Staff at the telescopes will actually be controlling the telescope and the camera systems, but you have the possibility for immediate input. You see the light, you see the pictures pretty much as the people on the, at the telescopes do.
There's another very good reason for doing research remotely, not at the telescope site. At nearly 3 miles in altitude, it's hard to think clearly up here.
An immediate effect is that the telescopes are at high altitude. Here at Mauna Kea, the telescope's at 14,000 feet above sea level. And you really feel the effects of that altitude. So and you lose a bit of your sharpness up there. It's just hypoxia. It happens to everybody. So the people who are making the critical science decisions stay down low at sea level where the air is nice and thick, while the staff runs the mechanics of running the telescope and the cameras at altitude.
The holy grail for the scientists on the Gemini Project is to find the first exosolar planet, that is the first planet outside our solar system. And that depends on using high-tech infrared telescopes like Gemini.
We're looking for disks of dust around other stars, and we think that these dust disks are the sort of nurseries where planets are formed out of. Over time, the dust falls together and makes bigger and bigger rocks and then planets. And these disks glow very brightly in the infrared, but they're very hard to see in the optical. So that is a case where you really have to look in the infrared to be able to see these sorts of objects.
The astronomers on the Gemini Project are not only looking outward into space, they are actually looking backwards into time.
Another thing that Gemini is perfectly suited to do is to look back in time at the very earliest times of right after the universe was born, sort of thing. We see galaxies that are just forming. In our own galaxy, we see some of the youngest stars. And this is because in the infrared, we can see right through the dust that blocks the optical light. And that's another part of this, an angle in this niche that Gemini is going to fill that some of the other telescopes really just won't be able to do so well.
As with the telescopes on Haleakala on Maui, the Gemini telescope here on the Big Island of Hawaii is an extraordinary feat of computer hardware and software, using complex systems that intentionally deform the shape of the telescope's mirror to correct for distortions in the atmosphere.
It's really what I personally think is maybe the most incredible thing about Gemini, is you have this mirror which is 30 feet across. And it's very thin. I think it's about 10 inches thick. And around the outside of the mirror And underneath, supporting the mirror, there are, I think, close to 200 actuators, little pistons. And each of these pistons can move independently to deform the mirror. And what happens is that as the light strikes the mirror, we send part of the light to a computer, the computer analyzes it, and then sends a signal back to the mirror to deform the mirror to, again, take the shape out and sort of cancel out any aberrations in the wave. And this happens very slowly in one system, and then in the camera they're using tonight, it actually happens very, very fast, again, hundreds of times a second.
The Big Island is not only a favored spot for getting a good look into space, it is also a great spot for listening in space. This is the Infrasound Laboratory, located here in the shadow of Mauna Kea. The main mission here is to listen to subtle vibrations in the atmosphere that could suggest a clandestine nuclear explosion in violation of the Nuclear Test Ban Treaty.
Whenever there is an explosion, it generates very large amplitude acoustic waves that may propagate very large distances in the atmosphere. And so the network is deployed throughout the globe so that a small explosion will be detected with one of the sensors in the network.
The infrasound sensors here sample the air 20 times per second, looking for disturbances that would suggest a nuclear blast. The lab is located in the shadow of the world's biggest mountain for a very good reason.
It's a very unique place because the mountains around the center of the island block the trade winds completely, so there are essentially no trade winds in this side. The winds are the biggest source of noise for acoustic signals, and so we have a very quiet site here in the Kona side of the Big Island.
The Big Island's other claim to high-tech fame is its role in monitoring earthquakes and volcanic eruptions. This is one of the world's premier centers for volcanologists and geophysicists, one of the only places on Earth where scientists can study ongoing volcanic activity. They do this by using various computer sensors that measure tilt and shift in the Earth's surface. And one of their newest technology tools is something called real-time GPS, new software that can measure instantly the minute changes in the shape of the Earth as measured by the Global Positioning System satellite stations.
Well, the real-time GPS, it's simply like any other GPS. It's recording data every few minutes. It gets into a network solution so that we can get sub-centimeter accuracy on the horizontal movements. And then we make it relative to some fixed base, either Mauna Kea or Kauai. And that gives us, most precisely, it gives us movement horizontally. So for example, the south flank of Kilauea is sort of moving at a general rate of about 6 centimeters a year off that way. And so these things are sort of constant, so that we can see all the time. Whereas when magma gets pushed up into the East Rift Zone, we may see that the rift zone will start parting.
The geophysicists here also measure other changes in the ground in their efforts to sense earthquakes and predict volcanic eruptions. One such measure is called ground tilt.
Ground tilt is essentially a very accurate carpenter's level. We have, usually in each situation, we have two components, like east and north, something like that. And it relies on the idea that as magma is coming up into the volcano, it's going to start pushing the magma up, just like blowing up a balloon. And so when we see an area begin to inflate, that's a first suggestion that there may be magma coming up in that area.
The Pu'u'o vent of Kilauea volcano has been erupting slowly but steadily for the past 18 years, giving scientists here an excellent opportunity to study volcanic activity. But occasionally, Kilauea erupts with a major lava flow, which can threaten large inhabited parts of this island. In fact, the Big Island has been an amazingly unstable piece of land, with hundreds of earthquakes each year.
We've had a number of large earthquakes. As I said, we have roughly 30 locatable earthquakes a day on average. We've had a number of 7s and 8s, which are not generally due to the eruptive activity, but due to the island sliding over the ocean floor.
There have been more than 100 volcanic eruptions on the Big Island since scientists started measuring volcanic activity here in the early 19th century.
Our most accurate time frame for eruptive activity is since Westerners have arrived. So in the early 1800s, and since then, Kilauea has erupted probably between 60 and 70 times. Mauna Loa has erupted between 30 and 35 times. Most of Mauna Loa flows are quite large. The eruptions are relatively short compared to the current one of Kilauea, but the Mauna Loa eruptions are large enough that lava flows can make it down to Hilo within weeks to months. So it becomes a significant hazard for people in Hilo. Also, there are areas on Mauna Loa which are very steep and very close to the coast, and in most of the southern part of this island we only have one highway going around. So it's a real threat that we could possibly get a lava flow out of the southwest rift of Mauna Loa that would cut the highway within 2 hours of when it started.
That's it for part 2 of our special series on high-tech Hawaii. For the Computer Chronicles, I'm Stuart Chaffee in Hawaii. Computer Chronicles is brought to you by the Oracle Small Business Suite, one completely integrated application that helps make it easier to run your business, including accounting, sales and service, your web presence, and more. Additional funding is provided by PC to PC, the online migration service from PC First, moving files, applications, and preferences from your old computer to your new one.